Welcome to the dark side of love. I remember the exact moment my world shifted. Not in the way people talk about near-death experiences or sudden tragedies, but in a quieter, more intimate way. Like a door that had always been locked in the back of my mind, suddenly clicked open. And once I stepped through, there was no going back. It was a Friday night, late summer. The kind of night where the air still clung to the heat of the day, heavy and restless, as if the season itself didn't want to let go. Outside, the cicadas buzzed in their endless chorus, and the scent of jasmine drifted in through the open porch windows, clinging to everything like invisible fingerprints. Inside, the glow of dimmed lamps softened the edges of the room. A Bluetooth speaker in the corner whispered a mix of low, sultry music, barely loud enough to mask the sound of our laughter as glasses clinked and bottles emptied. There were 4 of us that night, as there often were. Me, my husband Michael, his best friend, Tyler, and Tyler's wife, Emma. We had been inseparable for years, our little circle of comfort. Friday dinners, weekend getaways, game nights that stretched till sunrise. People used to joke that the 4 of us were unnaturally close, that our lives were strangely intertwined. They weren't wrong, but there was comfort in that closeness, familiarity, a trust so strong it almost felt unshakable, almost. That night, the air was already different, charged, humming with something none of us dared to name. Michael and I had been married for 6 years. Our love wasn't dead, it had simply settled. The wildfire of our early days had cooled into something predictable, safe, steady. A warm lamp instead of a burning sun. And sometimes, if I was honest, I missed the burn. I missed the sting of being wanted recklessly, dangerously. Tyler and Emma, on the other hand, were fire incarnate. They teased each other endlessly, touched each other constantly, whispered secrets across tables that made Emma blush and Tyler smirk. I envied it sometimes, not with bitterness, but with a kind of wistful longing, like watching a storm from behind a glass window, wishing you could step outside and let it soak you. That night, 2 bottles of red wine into the evening, the conversation turned. Not suddenly, not dramatically. Just one of those slow, sloping turns you don't notice until it's too late to steer back. Emma started it. Her lips curled into a sly smirk as she swirled the dark liquid in her glass. Her eyes lingered a little too long on Michael before flicking back to me. Ever wonder what it would be like if things were different? Her voice carried a playful lilt, but beneath it was something sharper, heavier. Tyler arched an eyebrow. Different how? Emma's gaze drifted again, this time landing on Michael and holding there, like a spark waiting for oxygen. If we'd met in different pairings, we're all close, right? My heart stumbled in its rhythm. Michael gave a nervous laugh, not quite dismissive, but not committed either. Life's all timing, he said. Change one moment and everything changes. Emma leaned forward, her smile daring, her tone softer. But would it be so bad? Hypothetically, the air shifted then. Subtle, heavy, crackling with unspoken possibility. I looked at Tyler. He wasn't watching his wife. He wasn't watching Michael. He was watching me. And that's when I felt it. The shift. A current pulling us into waters we'd never dared to swim before. That night didn't end like most of our evenings. We didn't just laugh, stack plates, and call it a night. No, we lingered. We stayed longer than we should have. talked softer, touched more. The space between us felt smaller, charged. Tyler's hand brushed against mine when I passed him a drink. It didn't feel accidental. Michael leaned a little closer to Emma when he laughed, and she didn't pull away. Every move was subtle, deliberate, yet wrapped in the guise of casual friendship. The next time we gathered, the silence between us carried roots. Every glance, every accidental brush of skin, every joke laced with a double meaning, it all carried weight. And none of us stopped it. Not one of us pulled away. It's strange how easily boundaries blur when you feel seen. Tyler began texting me more. Little things. Funny memes, thoughtful notes, late-night messages that somehow slipped past, harmless, into something more. And I didn't hide it. Michael noticed. But I noticed his too. The ones from Emma. At first, it felt like a game. Flirting, testing, teasing. But games have rules. And quietly, without saying it aloud, we were all rewriting them. It all came to a head one night after another dinner. We stayed behind to help clean up. Tyler and I ended up alone in the kitchen. He leaned in too close, his voice low and daring. "You don't stop me." It wasn't quite a question. It was a test, a line in the sand. And I didn't stop him. That night, everything escalated. No drama, no declarations. Just surrender. Michael and Emma weren't far. They weren't even pretending to hide their own choices. We had all made silent agreements, each of us letting go of the rules we once thought unbreakable. I'd love to say I felt guilt. Maybe I should have. But what I felt was something else entirely. Freedom. For the first time in years, I felt alive. Desired. Craved. Tyler looked at me like I was electric. And when he touched me, it wasn't gentle or cautious. It was hungry, urgent, and I let myself drown in it. After that night, there was no going back. We didn't talk about it, not directly. But the way we touched, the way we lingered, the way we looked at each other, it said everything words couldn't. Michael began coming home late, saying he was stuck at work. I knew better. And the strangest part, instead of fury, I felt a twisted comfort, because I wasn't innocent either. Emma started showing up with brighter smiles, her skin glowing in a way I recognized. She was falling into the same trap I was, wanting more of something we both knew we shouldn't taste. And nights stretched longer. The wine flowed heavier. The games we played with each other stopped being games. And every touch carried fire. One night, Tyler whispered to me, his lips brushing the shell of my ear. "I think about you when she's asleep." I froze, but I didn't tell him to stop. My pulse hammered in my chest, because the truth was, I thought of him too. When Michael's arms felt foreign, when the nights stretched cold, when I longed for something rawer than routine. Emma wasn't blind. She saw the way I looked at Tyler. But instead of anger, there was a strange spark in her eyes. Like she was daring me to go further. And Michael? He didn't question me when he slipped away with Emma. He didn't ask, because he knew he was guilty too. We were all complicit. I told myself it wasn't love, that it was escape, that it was lust dressed as freedom. But in those moments, wrapped in Tyler's arms, it felt dangerously close to something deeper. And that terrified me. Because once feelings bleed into betrayal, there's no way to stop the ruin that follows. I began living a double life, one with Michael, polished and predictable, and another in the shadows with Tyler, reckless and raw. It was intoxicating, that rush of secrecy, the thrill of sneaking glances, the stolen touches when no one was looking. It felt like fire running through my veins. But with every secret comes a shadow, and ours grew darker with each passing night. Emma cornered me one evening, her voice soft but sharp. "Do you love him?" she asked. I couldn't answer, because I didn't know. Michael never asked me the same question. Maybe because he already knew the answer, or maybe because he didn't want to hear it spoken aloud. Every kiss, every touch with Tyler blurred the line between fantasy and reality. I told myself I was still Michael's wife, but deep down, I wasn't sure whose height I belonged to anymore. The danger of desire is that it doesn't stay contained. It spreads, and soon our secret burned hotter than we could control. One night, after too many glasses of wine, Tyler pulled me aside. His voice was shaking when he said, "I don't want to share you anymore." My heart twisted, because the truth was, I didn't want to share him either. But admitting that meant tearing apart everything we had built. The marriages, the trust, the facade of friendship. And none of us were ready for that kind of destruction. We carried on in silence, pretending nothing had changed, even though everything had. Every shared glance became a secret. Every laugh carried a hidden weight. We weren't just friends anymore. We were conspirators. Emma seemed stronger than me. She wore her secrets like armor, smiling through them, drinking her wine as though nothing touched her. But I saw the cracks. One night, she whispered to me, "Sometimes I wonder if we'll ever come back from this." I had no answer, because deep down, I didn't want to. Michael, meanwhile, acted like everything was fine. He still made me coffee every morning, still kissed me goodnight. But his eyes had changed. They weren't warm anymore. They weren't the eyes of a husband. They were the eyes of someone who knew and simply chose silence. The silence became its own language, a language of restraint, of denial, of things too dangerous to name aloud. And so we lived in that limbo, neither faithful nor unfaithful, neither honest nor deceitful, just suspended. The danger wasn't in what we'd done, it was in what we might do next. Because once you open the door to desire, it never really closes again. Tyler started appearing in my thoughts when he shouldn't have, in the quiet of the morning, in the middle of conversations, even in my dreams. Michael would be talking, and I'd hear Tyler's laugh instead. Emma would text me, but I'd find myself waiting for Tyler's name to light up my screen. It was dangerous. It was reckless, but it made me feel alive in a way I hadn't in years. One night, Tyler brushed my hand again, but this time, I didn't move away. This time, I let it linger. In that single touch, Everything we'd been denying broke free. The restraint, the hesitation, gone. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff. And for the first time in years, I wanted to jump. Michael noticed. Of course, he noticed. But instead of anger, I saw something else in his eyes. Relief. As though he'd been waiting for this too. As though my betrayal was also his permission. Emma never asked questions. She didn't need to, because she had her own secrets, and I had mine. And so we carried on. 4 people, 1 tangled game. Each of us pretending it was under control. But deep down, we all knew the truth. It wasn't control. It was chaos, dressed up as love. The nights blurred together. Dinners, laughter, touches that lasted too long. And the quiet, guilty mornings after. I told myself I wasn't falling, that it was just lust, just heat. But my heart whispered otherwise. Because when Tyler looked at me, it wasn't my body he saw. It was me. And that terrified me more than anything else. Because what if love was still possible? And what if I had found it in the wrong place? Michael and I stopped pretending after a while. We didn't talk about it. We didn't fight about it. We just allowed it. Emma and I had coffee one afternoon. She leaned back, eyes sparkling, and said softly, "Are you okay with this?" I took a long sip, met her gaze, and whispered, "I never said no." That became our unspoken rule. No one said no. And that silence was its own kind of permission. But rules, even silent ones, have a way of breaking. And sooner or later, someone always crosses a line too far. It happened one night when Michael didn't come home. He was with Emma, and for the first time, I felt abandoned. Tyler noticed. He held me close, whispered that he'd never leave. And for a dangerous moment, I believed him. But love borrowed always comes with interest. And eventually, someone has to pay. I started wondering, did Emma feel this way too? Did Michael crave her the way I craved Tyler? The more I thought about it, the less I knew where my marriage ended and where Emma's began. The lines had blurred completely. We weren't couples anymore. We were something else. Something undefined. Something dangerous. Sometimes it felt beautiful. Other times, it felt like drowning. Tyler would send me late-night texts. Michael would laugh too loudly at Emma's jokes. And Emma, she just kept smiling, like she knew exactly what game we were playing. I told myself it was just a phase, that eventually it would fade and life would go back to normal. But deep down, I already knew normal was gone forever. And once you lose normal, you never truly find it again.